I knew that if I did it the right way, I had enough confidence in myself and the heart. I grew up a coach's kid, and then, just in a blue collar type of environment in my home. We work for what we get, and you don't get handouts. And so I was raised that way by my mom and my dad, and I knew that if I just put my head down and I worked, that great things could come, and that comes with sacrifice. And that's everybody and everything that they do professionally. If you want to climb the mountain, if you want to get to the top, you have to sacrifice some certain things that other people were doing. Especially, like you said, I'm 21, 22 years old, and my friends are going out and doing some fun stuff, and I didn't always get to go do those things.
Welcome to Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. Each episode pulls back the curtain on the coaching profession, spotlighting voices from every level of the game and offering lessons and insights for your own path. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Follow Inside the Headset on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. We drop new episodes each week, so hit that follow button and never miss a moment. Now, let's get inside the headset.
Coach, what's happening, man? How you doing?
Man, all is well, man. Down here in South Florida, gearing up here, about 2 weeks out from fall camp, practice number 1. So just trying to tighten everything up here, finish summer workouts, and give our guys a couple days off, and it's time to go to work, man. So it's all good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you making some time, man. I know number 1, just rolling into fall camp is tough for anybody and any head ball coach, but also this first time on the job, first time head coach, big deal for you. We're super excited, man. We were so excited to see that news come through. But let's go ahead and kind of dive into this thing, man, so I can let you get back to it. The first question we always like to ask is, when did you know you want to be a part of this great profession?
Yeah, it's a really cool story for me. My dad's been a legendary track and field coach for over 40 years, and he's in about every Hall of Fame you can be in for the profession. And so, growing up as a coach's kid, I always knew I wanted to coach. I mean, from a very young age, I remember distinctively in 7th grade telling my dad, I want to do this too. I want to coach. Now, as far as the football piece goes, man, it's kind of funny. There's a little local kind of chain restaurant Tex-Mex cafe called Rosa's Cafe in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
And when Cliff Kingsbury got hired as the head football coach there at Texas Tech in late 2012 there, December of 2012, we were sitting there when the news broke on my phone, and I remember looking right at my dad, and I told him, that's what I want to do. I want to go coach college football, and I want to learn under him. And that all stemmed for me loving the game of football and being a young kid. My dad was coaching at Texas Tech whenever I was 8 years old. He took that job, and so my first memories of watching college football was Cliff Kingsbury throwing the ball 50, 60 times across the yard on the AstroTurf Jones AT&T Stadium.
That's right.
And so it's kind of crazy, it's full circle, me falling in love with the sport, at 8, 9 years old, and watching him play the game, and then for him to come back and be the head coach at his alma mater, and just me watching what he did offensively, what he did at Houston, what he did at Texas A&M. I'd always followed his career, and it was really cool for him to come back home to Texas Tech, and then I wanted to dive into it, and I wanted to learn from him and be a part of this offensive tree, if you will, this air raid kind of type offense, and I got my foot in the door, and now we're here. So it's been a fun ride, but yeah, that takes me back to just being a coach's kid and seeing my dad do it for a long time, and then again December of 2012, really knowing football was going to be the way I wanted to go.
Yeah, and I don't think you're being modest at all, but I don't want to fail to mention we won numerous Big 12 championships as a head track coach there at Texas Tech, and national championships, I believe, as well. Now, one interesting tidbit that I did see, and we don't spend a bunch of time talking about playing days, but you also were on hardwood for a little bit, right? At Abilene Christian. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, very, very, very short stint. I never actually played in the game because I was redshirted and all those things.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of one of those deals. I have a really crazy story. I got a bunch of offers out of high school. I'm 6'7", tall. I'm tall and lean, and basketball. I was a good basketball player. Just because of kind of the height and the length that I had, and But kind of crazy. I never loved playing the game of basketball. I loved football. I loved track and field. I played basketball because I was tall and I was pretty good at it. And so out of high school, I had some different offers to go play, and I didn't love it. And I knew I didn't love it. And so I just went to Texas Tech and started working for my dad's in the track program at that point there. And kind of crazy. In my degree, I had to take like some 1 hour athletic type classes for my degree, and I took a basketball class. And I really did it just to get in shape and stay in shape and get some good cardio in. And I'd matured, I'd grown, I'd gotten a little bit stronger, I'd gotten more aggressive, and I was playing really good basketball at the time. And kind of crazy story, a local high school coach had got hired there at Lubbock Christian University for their basketball coach, and he invited me over to come try out for their team. And I had a good practice. He asked me to be on their team, and kind of where my mind was, I was like, if I'm going to go do this, I want to go play at the highest level I can. And Coach Golding there at Abilene Christian was an old family friend of ours, and he asked me to come be a part of their program too. And so I kind of did that, but that's a long time ago and in the past. And like I said, I practiced. I would never say I played, but I was on the team there for a short time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I saw that. I figured I'd ask you at least a little bit about that. And I mean, when it's all said and done, I think all these moments, they add up to something, because at that moment you could have stayed and hooped, and who knows what would have happened after that, but kind of chase that passion of wanting to be in this profession and getting some early exposure was very helpful. So now in 2015 you have the opportunity to kind of start there at Tech. Now, did you do any coaching as a student assistant, or was your first start actually as a GA?
No, so so Coach Kingsbury and Sonny Cumbie really is the one who got me my foot in the door. Again, Sonny Cumbie, head coach at Louisiana Tech, a great friend of mine, family friend of my dad's at the time. And whenever I told my dad there at that restaurant, this is what I wanted to do, he said, "Hey, I'm going to give you Sonny Cumbie's number, but you got to do this. You got to do this on your own." And so, at the time they had no paying jobs, and they had a volunteer spot open to start there with the team in 2013. And so I jumped at the opportunity. So I student coached there fall of 2023. Or summer and fall of 2023, spring of 2024, and then spring of 2014, 2013, 2014. And I graduated with my undergrad there in May of 2014. And I had a couple high school offensive coordinator opportunities in the state of Texas, which pay really well, at some good programs. And, I kind of just bounced my thoughts off of Coach Kingsbury, and he said, "Look, man, I'm going to have a GA, the assistant quarterback GA, pop up and open here in 7 months at the end of December. Man, I want you to stay." And whenever he approached me with that opportunity and the feeling from him that he wanted me there, I felt a lot of pride in that, and I felt like that would be my best opportunity. And so, and especially, after that 2013 year, I mean, we felt good. We had Davis Webb coming back. We had young Patrick Mahomes coming in the door. I mean, I felt really good about the people I was going to be able to surround myself with. And so I did that volunteer. We called it an internship there in the fall of 2014. Sorry, I keep saying that. And the rest is history. I got that GA assistant quarterback job in January of 2015, and did that for 3 years.
Well, you mentioned that pride that you felt when Coach Kingsbury kind of approached you about that opportunity. Now, he's not going to do that if you weren't doing a good job as a student assistant. What was that workload like, and how were you balancing, being an undergrad student and making sure you were impressing those guys?
Yeah, I mean, it started with making sure I was around the building as much as I could. Try to set my school schedule where I try to take as many online classes as possible. If I did have class, I had them in the mornings because we were an afternoon practice team. And so, man, I'm sure everybody's heard the stories about Coach Kingsbury. I mean, he's an early morning guy. He's a grinder. So he's up there every morning at 4:30 a.m. And I wanted to be like him. I wanted to try to impress him. And so I did the same stuff. I showed up early in the morning, and then I'd work out, I'd eat some breakfast, I'd take a shower, I'd go to class, and then I'd come back. And, when you're in those entry level roles, I'll never forget, hearing some people say, "Don't speak unless spoken to," and kind of just sit in the corner and really just take it all in and learn and be a sponge and really, just take the opportunity that I was given. I called it an opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for it. But the workload is crazy. I mean, when you're in those situations, I mean, you're making coffee, you're picking up kids, you're going to grab meals for the coaches, you're going to sit at their house when a new coach comes in, and the cable guy's coming to set up the TV. I mean, you're doing you're doing really whatever the case is, whatever they need you to do, you're going to do it, and you do it with a smile, and you do it to your best ability. And again, that was just kind of part of it. But again, all those moments make you a lot better in the long run, as you know. And then it's kind of fun looking at it now. And I'm still a young guy relatively for this profession, and I've got some young coaches that are in the GAs and student assistants and some of those things. And so, I've got a ton of respect for the people that want to do that, because I did it myself, and I know the hard work that you have to put in to really make it in this profession.
Yeah, and you highlighted the hard work and sitting there and being quiet, and listening and absorbing all the things that are going on around you. But talk a little bit about sacrifice. I mean, you're a junior, senior in college. Most junior and senior colleges are partying and hanging out, and obviously you had a dad, in a profession, so you had a little bit of understanding. But just the sacrifice that kind of becomes involved with waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and be available for coach, and the late nights and early mornings and all the things that you got to sacrifice from your personal life.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. They're my friends not in the profession that I grew up with. They were doing a lot of things that I wanted to do, but knew I couldn't do, and like you said, hanging out, being a normal college kid. And I did, I sacrificed a lot of personal time and a lot of personal lifestyle type things. And, but at the end of the day, I knew that if I did it the right way, I had enough confidence in myself and the heart, I grew up a coach's kid, and then, just in a blue collar type of environment in my home. We work for what we get, and you don't get handouts. And so I was raised that way by my mom and my dad. And I knew that if I just put my head down and I worked, that great things could come. And that comes with sacrifice, and that's everybody and everything that they do professionally. If you want to climb the mountain and you want to get to the top, you have to sacrifice some certain things that other people were doing. Especially, like you said, I'm 21, 22 years old, and my friends are going out and doing some fun stuff, and I didn't always get to go do those things. Yeah. I was waking up the next morning, and I was working on Saturday and Sunday mornings. Right. And so, but it was, again, it was a sacrifice. And at the time, you maybe not always was fired up to make that sacrifice, but definitely now that you're 33 and you're married for 8 years and got 3 kids, and you look at where you're at and the people you're surrounding yourself with and people you're able to help in this profession. I mean, every sacrifice I've made to get here has been absolutely worth it.
Absolutely, man. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes kind of in passing there, and you really look back on that Texas Tech lineage, especially Mike Leach, when he got to start there. And I played in the Big 12 at Baylor, and I mean, it felt like every year they had a quarterback that was just that much better than the next one. And the next one came in, and Sonny Cumbie, I believe, was one of those guys during that time frame. Having an opportunity to develop as a quarterback coach at a place like that has just, a legit 25 years straight of just quality quarterbacks that have came through that program. Obviously in that time frame, you're just there, soaking it all in. But, in hindsight, what a tremendous opportunity for a young 21, 22, 23-year-old coach to just, be able to be around these type of guys. How did you make sure that you developed and made the best of that?
Yeah, I really did. I sat there and I listened to Coach Kingsbury, and he's the best in the world, in my opinion, at developing a quarterback, at being an offensive coordinator, a play caller, schematically. And and again, I'm biased because I spent 5 years and I sat there right by him for 5 years, 12 to 15 hours every single day, and heard how he did it. Yeah. But I soaked up his knowledge. And one thing that I tell my coaches all the time, and my young coaches, I was able to understand how he articulated his verbiage to the guys, and I was able to articulate the same way. And so I call it speaking the same language.
Yes.
And that's where him and I became so close, is he would hear me coach, and he was saying, hey, he's saying exactly how I'm saying it. Yeah. And so there's nothing lost between whenever he was coaching the quarterback or he was running the meeting versus whenever I was coaching the quarterback or I was running the meeting. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is me really diving into how does he articulate his words to these guys, and how does he get them to understand what he's looking for. And I was able to put it in the exact same verbiage, the exact same way, the same tone, the same manner. And so that's what I think really helped me. And then again, you talk about just surrounding yourself with the right people. I tell this story all the time about how lucky and how fortunate and blessed I've been. The starting quarterback at Texas Tech when I first got there was Baker Mayfield. Yeah. First pick in the draft. My second quarterback that was with us is Davis Webb. Yeah. 3rd round draft pick, played 5-6 years in the NFL. Now he's a quarterback coach for the Denver Broncos, and he'll be a head coach there in the NFL in 5 years. My next quarterback I coached there was Patrick Mahomes, the greatest football player on the planet right now. The next quarterback after that was a young man by the name of Nick Shimonette, who went undrafted, had a cup of coffee in the league for 2 years with the Chargers and the Commanders, the Redskins then. And then your career just keeps going, and you get Bailey Zappi, and then you get Tyler Shuck, and then you get Baron Morton, who will be a draft pick next year. And so it's like you start to do it, but really looking back at those early years, I mean, you're talking about surrounding myself. You had Baker Mayfield, like I said, Davis Webb, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I was very fortunate, and then again, not just the player themselves, but then the coach and being Cliff Kingsbury, being able to learn everything that I learned from him. I mean, I was very fortunate and blessed, and just crazy when you look back at the people I was able to spend time with.
Absolutely. Now, you're 20, I'm going to imagine 24, 25, and you have the opportunity, your GA position time is up. You have the opportunity to head down to Houston Christian. Just two things. How did that opportunity come about, and how did you navigate taking that job after spending so many years affiliated with Texas Tech?
Yeah, it was a crazy story. So, my GA was out. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do after our bowl game. We played in the Birmingham Bowl against South Florida. We got beat on a last-second touchdown play, and you're literally I'm married for a year. You walk out of the stadium, you're getting on the plane to head back to Lubbock, and you're literally sitting there like, I have no idea what I'm about to go do.
Right.
No clue what I'm going to do. My GA's out. Fortunate enough for me, Coach Kingsbury did offer me a quality control analyst job at that point to stay and continue to help with the quarterbacks, which was a great deal for me. He tripled my salary, offered me that job.
Yeah.
Lubbock is my home. Me and my wife had just gotten married. We had just bought a house in Lubbock. Loved that place. Wanted to start a family there. And then crazy story. I'm on the airplane flying back to Lubbock, Texas from Birmingham, Alabama. And I actually got an email from the head coach there at Houston Baptist at the time, Vic Shealy. Mm-hmm. And he had sent me an email and gave me his contact and said, hey, I just want to, inquire about you possibly coming to be the offensive coordinator here. And I did some research. We had a couple phone calls back and forth. My wife's hometown is just west of Houston, about an hour and a half. He drove over while we were there for Christmas break. We did like a kind of a lunch interview, if you will, and then he offered me the job. And I went to AFCA that year, and I remember sitting down. Coach Kingsbury was actually doing a bunch of interviews, hiring some new coaches. And at that time, he actually we had a receiver job available at Texas Tech. The inside receivers coach was available, and I felt like I had put in a ton of work of the previous 5 years, and I felt like I could do that job. I felt like there was nobody better for that job. I knew the offense better than anybody else. I could speak the language that he was speaking, and it just wasn't the right time. I wasn't, I had no experience. I was young. He was on that was a must-win year going up in 2018 for him, and man, I just sat down, I thought about it, I prayed on it, and I said to myself, man, you're 26 years old. Let's go call plays. And let's go learn how to do it now. Let's go take over a program that was really struggling at the time. Let's see if I can turn it around. Let me bring my energy, my juice, my vision to this offense. And, it was still in Texas, which was a positive for me. Houston was a recruiting hotbed and still is and will always be a recruiting hotbed. I had belief and I had confidence in myself that I could go do it. And so I jumped. My wife was on board from the jump. And so we jumped at that opportunity to go down there, and I got hired. I want to say it was January 10th of 2018, and that started my career as an offensive coordinator.
26 years old, offensive coordinator. It kind of first time out of your first gig. Man, how exciting, right? You're closer to the White House. Everything is good. Then that door closes. To that offensive coordinator room, and you're looking at the depth chart. And I just had somebody recently that was on that staff around the time Burl Jordan was on pretty recently, and he was, I didn't realize that program had just kind of rebooted in 2014. So it's a relatively new program to a certain extent. What were some of the hardships? I mean, obviously you went and did a tremendous job there. I highlight some of the good stuff here in a second, but what were some of the hardships for you as a young OC? Never done it before, and you don't have a loaded roster.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you take a job, and you have, unfortunately, I wasn't when I first got hired, I wasn't able to bring anybody with me.
Yeah.
So I inherited the whole staff that had been there before. You walk into a room, and you're 26 years old, and I want to say the youngest assistant coach on my staff was 42. And so I'm 16 years or more younger than everybody else in that room.
Yes.
And you have some young kid walking in and you're trying to teach these, grown men, professional coaches that have been doing it for 15, 20, 30 plus years. And I'm some young guy that's never called a play in my life other than scrimmaging with the young players at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And so really trying to get them to dive in and buy into me and buy into my system and what I'm selling and what I'm doing. Now, fortunately, it kind of worked out where I ended up getting to hire 2 coaches, and that was huge for me. I got to hire my offensive line coach and Jared Castor, who's now the offensive line coach at Wake Forest. And then Tyler Skuvanek, I was able to hire him as well as my running back coach and special teams coordinator, who's now with me here at FAU as my special teams coordinator as well. So whenever I got those 2 guys in the door, that really helped me. But the hardest part about the whole deal was when you get there, you didn't realize that you mentioned they started the program in 2014. And when the NCAA allowed them to come in straight FCS, they got the first class they signed, those 25 kids got an extra year of eligibility.
Okay.
And so 2017, they were all seniors. 2 classes worth of seniors were all there. So they graduated, I think, like 40 or 41 players. So we went into the spring of 2018 with 5 healthy offensive linemen. In practice 3, we did 1 team period, and after our first team period, one of my linemen broke his foot. So from practice 3 basically on to practice 15, we had to cancel the spring game. All we did was throw 7-on-7 and routes on air every day.
Jeez.
That was whenever, I distinctly remember going home sometimes after practice and just frustrated and telling my wife, like, I hope I didn't screw this up,
right.
Because
Absolutely.
You're not practicing football. And I'm not naive. I'm a quarterback guy. I'm a quarterback driven guy. I think quarterbacks win or lose you the game, but at the end of the day, you got to be good in the trenches. You can have the best quarterback in the world, but if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't get the ball out. You're not going to be successful. And not being able to have and see that physicality, see the technique, see us fitting up blocks, it was frustrating. It was really, really tough. And that kind of led us into that first year of 2018, and we went 1-10.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you talk about lots of highs and lows, and some games where we lost 54-52 and we scored 50 points. And I'm young, and so I'm feeling good about myself. Like, hey, at least I put up 50 on the board, But then there's also the times, our second or third to last game of that year, I'll never forget it. We played Nichols, and Nichols is a really good football team, and I think we scored 13 points that game. And they beat us 45-13 or whatever it was. I remember we played at home. I remember sitting in my locker after the game, and I was in tears of embarrassment and disappointment, how bad I let the team down, the fans down, our coaching staff down, Coach Sheely down, my assistant coaches. Like, man, this was not what I was wanting.
Yeah.
But then, again, you travel the highs and lows, and then you keep climbing, you keep punching, you get better as the time goes, and that's what we ultimately ended up doing there at HBU.
Absolutely. Now, just in that first year, what were some of those reflection moments like for you? Either postseason, maybe sitting in that locker in that moment where you're looking and you're saying, "Dang," how you evaluating yourself and your, the job that you're doing at that point in time.
Yeah, I went in that thing thinking that I'm a better coach than everybody and I can out scheme you. And I learned really fast that first year that it has nothing to do with my play call. It has nothing to do with the routes we run, how we block certain things. It all is about your players. And you've got to adapt your system to the players that you have. You've got to put your players in the position to be successful. Because I went in and I'll tell you today, I feel like I had some really sweet plays that I put in against some of these guys, and they never worked. And it's because I wasn't playing to the strengths of my players.
Yeah.
And Bailey Zappi that year, I think he took like 44 sacks, just got beat to a pulp. And we had some success here and there, but ultimately when you're not winning, nothing matters,
right.
And 1-10 is not fun. And again, we were doing some good stuff on offense. We ended up scoring, I think, like 28 points a game that year, which was about 17 points more per game they had the year before. So we were doing some good stuff, and you find out quickly that, hey, man, it's not about the play call. We got to figure out our personnel. We got to figure out the players, and let's get them really good and not worry about what's my play call or how can I scheme stuff up. And so after that year, I went into the off season. I cut half the plays down in my install. Got really good at certain stuff. Started putting the ball in my best players' hands, who was Bailey Zappi and Jared Stearns, that receiver there for us, and you start to kind of see the success go from there.
Absolutely. One thing that you said is interesting. I don't know if you can recall Lee Hayes He ran through Tech for a little bit. I don't know if he coached there until kind of late, the more recent years, but Lee Hayes actually stopped and was our offensive coordinator my senior year. We switched to the air raid 92, 91, 90. I still remember it all, zipping it around the field. And then we would go watch Tech, and they look so different than us. And then, as that air raid started to spread around the country, you'll go and watch Washington State and, all these different teams, and that air raid just could look so different. You still see the mesh, you still see the shallow and all that kind of stuff, but it would just look so different. Was that kind of your point where, you kind of broke off and, like you said, played to the strength of your guys, and that's where it starts just, tweaking and looks different than maybe what it looked like there at Tech while you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, Lee Hayes, man, I love Lee. That's my guy. We coached together at Tech for 4 years. So I was with Lee for 4 years there. He was the O-line coach with me from 13 to 16 there. So got to coach with Coach Hayes. Great dude, man. Fired up for him. He's now, the head guy there at Sol Ross. So
that's right. Yep.
Fired up for him. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, I was trying to do too much, I felt like. And so you sit down, and what I did was I simplified the plays, but I got more multiple in how do I get to them. Started using more personnel grouping, started using more motions and some stuff like that. And again, ultimately what I did was I said, who's my best football player and how can I get him the ball as many times as I can? So we threw the ball a ton because my best player was Bailey Zappi, and I wanted him to have the ball. And then my second best player was Jared Stearns, who is my slot receiver who caught 1 million balls. And I was like, all right, how do I get this guy the ball? Yeah. And so that's kind of how it ended up adapting. When you talk about that old school, what I call old school air raid, I mean, you're talking 3 to 4 formations, no motions. You got 3 run calls, you got 5 pass calls.
That's right.
And it's adapted like crazy now. And I was doing more than that, in 2018, but in 2019, I did simplify as far as how much plays do I have, for example, but I just found a million ways to get to those plays that we were really good at. And again, also finding ways to get my best players the ball.
Amen. Now, let me ask you this question. There's a little bit of speculation. There's no right answer to this, but that first year, right, 1 and 10, obviously had some highlight moments. It definitely improved the offense and the trajectory. But, close in the season, you're sitting in that locker, in tears, with 13 points on the board, probably not feeling great. Was that year good for you? When you look at where you are right now, how important was that year to have for you?
Probably the biggest year I've ever had in my coaching career, to be honest with you. Other than, I said probably my second biggest year, but we'll talk probably through that here in a little bit. But you never know, like, really what you know until you screw up so many times. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I'm glad that, like kind of we talked about earlier, I took the job at 26 because I knew in my mind I wasn't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I wanted to screw up now.
Yes.
I was like, hey, you're the youngest coordinator in all of college football. You're 26 years old, dude. Like, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. So let's do it now, because here in 10 years when you're 36, you want to be a big-time OC or you want to be a head coach by then. That was the goals that I had for myself. And so that year was huge for me because I learned that you got to play team football, number one, as a guy that wanted to always be a head coach and didn't just want to call plays forever. You got to play team football. But again, it changed your whole outlook on everything. Because there's nothing like, winning one game is really, really hard. When you're a competitor and you love to win, and you're 1 and 9, and you're bringing your offensive unit in there and you're trying to get them going. Mm-hmm. You learn so much about yourself, about your players, about the people that are surrounding you, and how to get more out of people and keep punching.
Yeah.
Even when it feels like you're knocked out, you got to get up and you got to keep punching. And that was when you look back at that year, as disastrous as it was at times. It was so huge for my development as just maturing too. Again, I was 26 years old, and I thought I was some hotshot young guy that could just out scheme you and out play call you, and that just wasn't the case. And so, such a huge year for me, 2018, through mainly the lows of that year, a few highs, but a huge year for me there for sure.
Yeah, I know our listeners aren't here to hear your story, but I do want to interject because you said something that really resonated with me. My last year at Louisiana Monroe, we went 1 and 12, and I say 12 because we had a game in Hawaii, so we were able to play an extra one. I wish we didn't. It was just another loss for us, but man, towards the end of the year, we were getting beat. 50, 60 points. And I was a special teams. I was in charge of a special teams unit, kickoff return. And you talk about in the fourth quarter, down 52 points, huddled up with 11 guys trying to get them to get back on there on the kickoff return. Like, that was the hardest, like I felt like that was one of the more memorable parts of myself as coach. And I remember just it being difficult. Like, damn, they scored again. Come on, guys. Like, I'm trying to hype them up. I'm challenging myself to be better. And, man, it was pivotal for me. And I'm just like, hey, man, it's easy to be the coach when you're winning or the game is competitive. How do you coach when you're struggling? And that's going to help me be a better coach when the success comes. And, you just pointed that out, and it just brought back that memory that just has stuck with me. I won't say haunted me, but it stuck with me for a long time. You just like the players, you develop through failure, and sometimes those are some great moments. Now, you turn around that following season, end up being one of the top offenses in the country from a pass game standpoint, total offense standpoint. And in 21, you get the opportunity, which I think has turned into this offensive coordinator haven, great offense at Western Kentucky. You get the opportunity to kind of move to the FBS level. How did that go down? Why did you decide to take that opportunity?
Yeah, so it was kind of, I'm gonna skip back 2 years for you real quick. You talked about 2019, man. We felt really good. Like I said, I learned a ton. I adapted what we did. We come out that next year, and we started the season in 2019 4-1. We got in the top 25 of FCS football for the first time ever.
Yes.
Went up and beat a South Dakota team up there in South Dakota. Went for a 2-point conversion to beat them 53-52. Man, we were rolling, and we hit a skid there in the middle of the year, and we ended up being 5-7, which at the time was still the best record in school history. Again, that really young football program there of HBU. But we felt really good after 19. We had the entire team coming back. Nobody wanted to transfer. Everybody wanted to come back. We felt like we had a team that could really go get it done. And then, of course, COVID hits in 2020. And I hit back about how 2018 is the second most important probably year of my coaching. 2020 for me was probably my most important year for me. And it's hard to say because I know how much of a travesty 2020 was for the world and for everybody involved. But selfishly for me, we were able to play 4 football games that year. And they were all nationally televised, big games. We opened up at North Texas. We got beat, but we played really well on offense. Bailey Zappi threw a ton of yards. We put up a bunch of points. The next week is really the big one for me. We played at Texas Tech, and it was COVID, and we were like every other game had gotten canceled that day, and so we're like the only game on national TV. And Bailey Zappi goes out and throws for 600 yards on them, and we lost by 2 points, and we were like 42-point underdogs going into the game, like a 42.5-point line from Vegas, and we got beat by 2. We went for 2 to tie it and go to overtime, and we barely missed the throw. But really that night, I'm getting on the bus, and I played at Texas Tech. That's my hometown. That's my alma mater. I love that place. I'm on the opposing sideline. It was weird, but it was just all kind of like, it's almost like all this hard work that I've done now for 7-8 seasons is all like all of a sudden, bang, it's all accumulated to this. And you almost beat them. And that night, whenever I got to my cell phone, the text messages, the social media, I knew that night. I texted my wife and I said, our lives just changed. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen next. I said, but I know our lives just changed because you're having big time people that don't even know who I am, but like Kirk Herbstreit and people like that, like tweeting like, hey, this guy's the next thing, man. Like this guy like is lighting it up. This Bailey Zappi kid's a stud. Jared Stearns, blah, blah, blah. And it was just kind of like, I told my wife, so this is going to change our lives. And I don't know where we're going next or what's going to lead to this, but something's going to happen. And we ended up playing Louisiana Tech right after that too. Again, we got beat, but had a ton of points, ton of yards. We we played at Eastern Kentucky the last game of the year, ended up winning that game. Same deal, ton of points, ton of yards. And man, it was about 2 weeks after that, I get a phone call from Tyson Helton, inquiring about coming to be the OC at Western Kentucky. And man, I mean, Western Kentucky, I remember early days of Texas Tech, 2013, 2015, we would study them because they were lighting people up.
That's right.
With Brandon Dowdy and Mike White and those guys. They're throwing the ball across the yard, and Cliff Kingsbury was studying them, and so I was studying them, and so we're just watching. And I remember thinking, like, man, that's a good place. I'd known a few people that have been there and coached there, and financially it was a good move for me. Professionally, it was a good move for me. Moving up in the deal, and ultimately too, like I had known a bunch of people that knew Tyson Helton, and I wanted to make sure, because I know he's an offensive guy, and I really wanted to make sure that he was going to let me come in and be me and do my thing and not step on my toes. And and not necessarily like, I don't want to listen to you, Coach Helton, but like, hey, you're hiring me to do a job here.
Right.
And what was really cool for that is I ultimately ended up taking that job, and him and I kind of blended. And I tell this story and ton of respect for Coach Helton. And he said, me watching your pass game is the reason I hired you. He said, you're young, you've got good energy. I love what you do passing the football. He said, there's not many people that do what you do schematically, throwing the football around the yard. He said, but your run game's not very good. He said it a little bit differently than that. Basically told me, I don't know how to run the football, which I took a ton of respect for, the Helton family being such an O-line driven family there with, the Coach Kim Helton, their dad, being an offensive line legendary coach. He said, if you will listen to me and if you'll let me help you integrate some run game and some pro style run into what you do passing the football, he said, you can be the next Lincoln Riley. And that was huge for me because Lincoln Riley is one of the best in the business. He grew up in West Texas. He went to Texas Tech University. So that really struck with me. And I remember telling myself, and I'm not an ego guy. I don't have any ego. I just want to win. And I want to put our players in the best spot to be successful. So I said, all right, let me learn your run game. And so I learned the run game. I learned their pass protection, and I morphed all their stuff, and I just built it into what I do. And it was extremely easy to do that. And then, again, fortunately enough for me, I am a relationship guy, and I think if anybody you ask that I've coached them, they'll tell you, hey, Coach Kittley loves me, and he would do anything for me. And I think ultimately that's why, we had those guys from Houston Baptist transfer with us, Bailey Zappi and Jarrett Stearns and his brother Josh Stearns and then Ben Rathlaff. We took, but again, that wasn't because not those guys didn't want to play at a higher level. I think more than anything, like they trusted me and they wanted to be coached by me and they wanted to play in my offense. They knew exactly who I was on a daily basis. They knew exactly what they were going to get from me. And, I still talk to like Bailey Zappi and Jarrett Stearns' birthday a couple of days ago. We were talking on his birthday. I officiated Bailey Zappi's wedding last summer, and I'm not a preacher by any means, but awesome. That's the relationships that I have with people, and that's because that's what ultimately is going to get you. I mean, I'm a coach, and I love X's and O's, but your players are going to play harder for you if they know you love them, right? And they know you genuinely care about them and want the best for them, and that's just who I am. And as a coach, and man, when those guys all called me and said, "Hey, we want to come play for you, and we want to come to Western Kentucky. Do you have spots for us?" Luckily enough, Tyson Helton had the kind of the wherewithal to understand, like, hey, the transfer portal hasn't officially started yet, but it's going to start here. It's going to pass in May or whatever the case was. We just took all those guys on a whim, basically praying that the transfer portal was going to open. And Tyson had done a great job of understanding that it was going to happen no matter what. And so we took those guys, and man, we did a really good job in the transfer portal there that first year at Western Kentucky, being able to pick up some key offensive linemen and stuff like that. And I call it lightning in a bottle. We just hit it just right, and I had an unbelievable staff by me. It's really cool when you look at that offensive staff and you go look at that offensive staff that year and look at where everybody's at now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. I mean, you're talking. I'm the head coach here at FAU. Brian Ellis, the tight ends coach at Alabama. Josh Crawford, the running back coach at Georgia. Zach Langford, offensive line coach at Georgia Southern. Stephen Hamby, offensive line coach here with me. Ben Arbuckle, who was my assistant, offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. I mean, you're looking, you're like, man, we were rolling. We had some good dudes. I was surrounded with great coaches, and we had the quarterback and we had the playmakers, and so we hit lightning in a bottle. And man, that was a fun year. 2021 was a ton of fun, and clearly with guys like Bailey Zappi and Jarrett Stearns, those guys, that's part of the reason why I'm here today as well.
Amen. And throughout this process, you give a lot of credit to other people on this deal, but I think a lot of credit deservingly goes to you at the beginning of this whole deal. You made mention of like, you're OC with an offensive guy. You have to make sure that you're comfortable with it, with that portion of it, right? You mentioned that, and I thought the story was gonna go, no, he was hands off, let me do my thing. You immediately follow it up with, in a nicer way, as you mentioned, your pass game's awesome, your run game sucks, let me help you. And that almost is kind of oxymoronic to the previous statement of like, you're gonna let me do my thing. You mentioned you don't have any ego, but I mean, god dang, I know the profession, I know the kind of guys that are in it. You got a little bit of pride in kind of what you've done. How do you legitimately say, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna integrate it? And you mentioned it was easy, and how did you make that portion of it work? How did you put your ego to the side, the little of it that you have, and just say, hey, I'm going to trust this. We're going to do this. We're going to run with it.
I mean, first off, I'm a believer that, whenever I took the OC job at Western Kentucky, Tyson Helton is my boss.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah. And so ultimately, whatever he wants, I was going to abide by. And I'm not saying I was going to be a yes man, and we weren't going to have, healthy conversations about, hey, I don't like this, I don't like that. But I also wasn't naive. I knew I wasn't running the football very well.
Okay. So you did.
And so I also, I absolutely recognized it. And, and it was kind of funny. Now, I also told him, like, hey, I'm not running the football because I got Bailey Zappi. I want the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
And so there was the combination of both of those. And it was really fun because, we went through spring ball there, and we were doing a bunch of the run game stuff and all that. And we got to the season, and we lost one of our best tight ends in Josh Simon game 1. He had 3 catches, 74 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first game. And on his second touchdown, tore his ACL.
That sucks.
And so from then, we kind of like, all right, we got to adapt. Well, and then we end up playing at Army, and we got into more 10 personnel. We're throwing the ball across the yard, and I'll never forget it. Tyson was like, hey, just do whatever you want to do. Like, you got to go score. We got to go score. Go do what you want to do. And because we lost the tight end, that did kind of almost make me go back a little bit more old school to my 10 personnel stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, we were still in the 11 personnel run game, a lot of, and we did some really cool stuff with our other tight ends in that offense as well. They had a ton of touchdowns themselves too, but we were able just to really get comfortable. And again, I really do. I give him credit for letting me be me, especially at that point. Like, understand, like, hey, one of our best players just went down. Going 10 personnel, maybe putting our better players on the football field.
Yeah, go do
and then also, again, like, ton of credit to those guys, Zach Langford, Brian Ellis, Ben Arbuckle. Like, those guys were in the box for me and helping me out tremendously. And, man, we just had great coaches. Stephen Hamby, Josh. I mean, I could go on and on about. I mean, you look at the players that we had. I mean, you had David Davis at a receiver who had a short stint in the NFL until he had an injury. You had Malachi Corley, second-round draft pick by the Jets, who was my 4th leading receiver that year. You had Jarrett Stearns caught 150 balls in one season. Nuts. And you had, golly, I'm going to go and blank on his name. Anyway, we had dudes, you know what I mean? And then you had a 4th-round draft pick quarterback who is the absolute guy, and I mean, it was just kind of, again, it was lightning in a bottle. And, but it was all built by all of us, and not just me. And again, Tyson Helton, I give him a ton of credit. And then those other, my coaching staff, man, I mean, it's cool for me. Right in my back corner, listening to every word I said, was Ben Arbuckle, who's now the OC at Oklahoma, and he's killing it. And he's going to be in this chair that I'm in before 33 years old. I have no doubt. And so, I had guys to lean on and people that I trusted, that I loved, and it was just, man, it was a lot of fun that year.
Man, I can only imagine. And it gets even funner, right? You get the opportunity to return back to your alma mater as an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. I can't guess for you. I would imagine one of the tougher decisions that you made in this profession, up to this point, had been take that Houston Christian job or stay at your alma mater, continue to develop with Coach Kingsbury, see how it goes. And, you get the opportunity to return a few years later as the OC. Once again, how did that go down? How did you decide to accept it?
Yeah, I mean, whenever so it's kind of funny. Coach McGuire and I, actually, the year before, he thought that he had a chance to maybe get that job eventually, or he was also possibly looking into the UTSA job a couple years before that, or whenever that was too. So him and I had actually had some conversations about us linking up together at some point. And then, whenever I found out that he was going to get the head job, I mean, I shot him a text message immediately, and I said, I'm your guy, and there's no better person to come lead that offense than me. I said, I know how you have to recruit there. I know the kind of kids we got to have there. I know the lay of the land there. I know a bunch of people there. And no one's going to work harder for you, because I have a ton of pride at that place. That's my hometown. That's my alma mater. My dad coaches there. Like, I got a lot of dogs in the fight in Lubbock, Texas.
Yes.
And so, it was kind of one of those weird deals where, I really thought I'd have a chance. And I told him, I said, Coach, I know you don't know me that well. I said, fly me in and interview me in person. You will not hire me. I said, you can't. I said, this hour-long phone conversation is great. I said, but you have to come. Let's look at each other man-to-man, eye-to-eye, and you're going to hire me. Well, that didn't happen. Unfortunately, at the beginning, he ended up retaining Sonny Cumbie, which, again, I totally understand. Sonny, again, love Sonny Cumbie, great friend of mine still to this day, great football coach. And so at that point, it was kind of crazy. I was getting courted by everybody at that point, some big time schools. And, I had the same kind of deal. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be back at Western or not. 'Cause I had some big time blue blood programs that were looking for a kind of a shot in the arm offense. But none of them were Texas Tech. And then crazy enough for me, I actually got a text message from one of the local sports writers in Lubbock and said, "Hey, I think Sonny Cumbie may be getting a Law Tech job, so stay by your phone," basically. Mm-hmm. And then it was the week we were playing in the conference championship game at UTSA. We played on that Friday night, and I want to say it was Monday or Tuesday. I got a phone call from Coach McGuire asking me would I come interview after the game, and I knew then, we were playing the championship. I said, "Coach, I got to give all my focus right now to going and winning the Conference USA championship game Friday night. But when do you want me there? Saturday, Sunday? What do you want?" He said, "Let's interview Sunday afternoon." And again, I went straight to Coach Helton and told Coach Helton, and he told me the same thing. He said, "Well, let's go win me a conference championship, and then you can go to Texas Tech." Basically, kind of how he put it. He felt like I was probably gone from that standpoint as well. And unfortunately, we barely lost that game there to UTSA. And I actually drove from San Antonio, Texas to Lubbock Saturday morning with my mom and my dad back to Lubbock to prepare for my interview on Sunday. And, man, during that, a lot of great conversation with my dad, leaning on my dad. And then it's really cool talking about him early on in this podcast. Cliff Kingsbury called me. And he said, "Hey, man, I heard you're interviewing for Tech." He's like, "I know you want that job." He's like, "But make sure they're going to take care of you. Make sure you're going to get what you want." And he was like, "I know that's a special place for you." And he just was kind of being a mentor for me there too, because he knew I had some other opportunities, more lucrative opportunities, to be honest with you. But man, nothing was Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech's my home. And I went into that basically saying, if you offer me the job, I'm taking the job, and I'm going to be fired up to do so. Again, I'm married at this point. I have 2 little boys at this point. I know, raising my kids in Lubbock would be great. I get to be right by my mom and dad. My brother lives 5 minutes down the street from me. I mean, it was a home run.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I went and I interviewed that Sunday afternoon with Coach McGuire, and then he kind of circled up with some people. And about 2 hours after I interviewed, he called me and offered me the job. And I ended up staying in Lubbock for a few days, and then flew back out here to Boca Raton actually, and lit up the scoreboard here in the Boca Bowl, broke some NCAA records, and then flew back to Lubbock. So,
what a wild, probably week or so, and probably even longer. I'm sure you were getting some phone calls even prior to that. Anytime the interview thing comes up, I do want to hit it a little bit. What did that interview look like for a guy that's put his resume on TV every Saturday for the last 2 or 3 years? From a national TV standpoint, what does the interview look like for a guy that stature in a job like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, it was about, to be honest with you, it was about a 3-hour-long conversation. A lot of it is just conversation, getting to know you as a human being first and foremost. Yeah. And then there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember, getting asked, "Hey, do you know that there's never been a Big 12 champion that has rushed for less than 1,500 yards?" Joey McGuire asked me that question. He said, "Can you run for 1,500 yards? There's never been a conference champion that's rushed for less than that ever." And I didn't know that stat, but he knew that stat, and he asked me that. And I said, "Coach, I know I'm a throw the football guy. I threw it last year to the guy." I said, "At the end of the day, I want to win, and I want to put my best players on the field, and I don't care how we win. Doesn't matter how we win." And so, like that, for an example, that was one of them. And, just talking philosophy, how do you game plan? How do you use your coaches? What does your daily basis look like? How would you structure your indie at practice? How do you, there's so much that goes into it, but right. I felt like more than anything is, especially in that interview, Coach McGuire just wanted me to get around me, get to feel my vibe, and so I think, again, you can feel so much energy, or you can feel no energy, like over a phone call, and you're just hearing someone's voice. Whenever you see how someone's looking at you eye to eye, you can tell so much more about a person and tell, are they authentic? Are they genuine? Are they BSing you? And that's why I told them from the get-go, fly me in, see me in person. I don't think you're not going to want me to be your OC. And again, the interview was great. He was awesome the whole time. He's super genuine human being. I love Coach McGuire to death, and it was great. And he did a great job of setting me up for some success too. So.
Well, I appreciate you kind of peeling the hood back a little bit on the interview process. And you said something that kind of resonated was, he just wanted to get a feel for you. Just what kind of guy are you? Can I be in the office with you for 20 hours or 18 hours, in the middle of the grind of the season, and we're doing well, we're doing bad? Or are you going to be a good guy? So I'm gonna put a pause on that part of it, because you're going to have the opportunity now to have to go interview I don't even know how many guys you interview these days, 20, 30 guys, as you fill your staff out. And just would love to ask you some follow-ups on that. But you go there, the first year, you guys lead our ninth in the nation passing offense. The following year, Taj Brooks, running back, ranked 4th in the nation in rushing yardage. So I hope he got close to that 1,500 for you guys. Top ranked in the top 10 in total offense scoring and passing in 2024. Just did some phenomenal things there. I'm kind of lumping this up because I know we're kind of getting short on time here a little bit, but what you get to come back to your alma mater. You get to light up the scoreboard. You get to do a tremendous job under, Coach McGuire. I recruited Cedar Hill back when he was the head coach there, and got to know him over the years as he was here in Baylor even more. Fantastic dude. What would you kind of label that 3 years to be back at your alma mater and just be doing well with a good dude?
Yeah, blessing. I mean, man, that was, I remember I was young, man, and our chief of staff at Texas Tech back in the day, he laughed at me. He got on, we were saving something on my hard drive to take to a game in case something got lost or whatever. And I had a folder in my hard drive that said future head coach. And I saved some stuff, some motivational stuff, some stuff I wanted to do. And he laughed at me. And, in that, I basically had like a short list of goals for myself. And coming back to be the offensive coordinator at Texas Tech was a goal of mine. And so that was a very emotional slam dunk moment for me and my family. I got to coach with my dad, basically. I got to see my dad every single day. And there's not many, tandems like that, across the country. And so to be able to do that was super special. And then for my personal life, my wife and my kids got to grow up with their grandma and their granddad, and then their cousins and their aunts and their uncles, right? Again, 5 minutes down the street. So being at Texas Tech was a blast. I mean, it comes with the territory of, wanting to score 50 points every single game. And so, you had some fans that either loved you or either hated you a little bit over the years. And,
yeah.
And again, you talk about ups and downs. Year one at Texas Tech, first quarter, Tyler Shuck breaks his shoulder, breaks his collarbone. Sorry. Week 4 that year, Donovan Smith, backup quarterback, gets a grade 2 AC sprain. He's out for a few weeks. You bring Baron Morton in. Baron Morton's doing really well. Baron Morton, a couple weeks later, gets a high ankle sprain. Reinsert Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck comes back, leads you to 4-0, big bowl game. Okay, great. All's good. You're going into 2023. Start out 2023. Kind of rocky start for us. Not great. First quarter of the 4th game, Tyler Shuck breaks his ankle. Here comes Baron Morton. Third play, Baron Morton's in the game against West Virginia. He gets a grade 3 AC sprain. So you talk about the ups and downs and having to learn. Well, now I'm like, okay, I got Taj Brooks. Let's give Taj Brooks the ball.
Yeah.
So, and then if you go back and you look at 2023 football for me, I grew tremendously that year. So I didn't have a healthy quarterback. I had to play 3 quarterbacks in 2022. I had to play 3 quarterbacks in 2023. I completely revamped my whole offense. Got into 12 personnel. We're running like inside zone, power, counter, like till the cows come home. We're not throwing the ball. I don't have a healthy quarterback.
Yeah.
And so you really break that year down. That was another crazy year for us. And I was extremely proud of what we were able to put out there with all the things that we went through. Playing 3 quarterbacks, we went 7-6, won a bowl game again. And then this last year, felt like we had some really good bullets and you kept the quarterback healthy. I've had some people ask me like, hey, you were 4th in the nation in scoring this last year. What was the difference? And I said, I had 1 quarterback for 12 games. And that helps a ton.
Huge, right?
And a really good one, and a 1,500-yard running back and a 1,000-yard receiver. So, when you put all that together, you're going to have some success. And, being back at Tech, again, dream come true, bucket list kind of type thing for me, a goal of mine that I always wanted. Frustrated that I didn't get it done there because in that interview process, I told Coach McGuire, we can win a Big 12 championship here, and we will win a Big 12 championship here. And I'm fired up for them this year because I truly believe that they're going to go get it done this year with some of the transactions they had this off season and some of the bullets they've got coming back too. And extremely fired up for them. And again, that's always going to be my hometown alma mater. So I love my 3 years there. But ultimately, the end goal for me was to be a head football coach, at some point in my career. And when this one came knocking, I had to answer the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what a tremendous program there at Florida Atlantic, some opportunities to do well. I kind of put the time out on the interview process, right? You get the job. We skip some details on that, but you get the job. And once again, I talked about closing that door. You close that door. Now you got to get a staff. you're in the middle of probably the craziest time of college football with transfer portals and recruiting windows and just all these things that are ever changing, that on a positive note, everybody's kind of having to deal with some of this stuff for the first time. But on a not as positive note, you walk into your locker room and you just don't know who you have and who's coming back, and all those kind of things. Your staff, how did you approach getting some of those guys and putting together staff that you could believe in?
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing, for me, when you're a head football coach and you're an offensive guy, I had 3 massive hires that I had to start with immediately. And that was my chief of staff, who does everything off the field. And I've got an unbelievable guy in Harrison Hanna, who was with me there at Texas Tech the last 3 years. And man, he helped me out tremendously, just getting boots on the ground here and getting rolling and starting with the process of all the off the field stuff that, us coaches half-time don't even think about. I had to hire a great defensive coordinator, which I did in Brett Dewhurst. Again, a guy that I've known from my Texas Tech days, the first time we coached together. He's made his rounds across college football as well, and then strength coach, because whenever the team gets there in January, we're on the road recruiting, and so he's got to be the voice of the head coach, and so I was able to bring in a guy named Brandon Lee, who is again also with me at Texas Tech as an assistant there, and so those 3 hires were huge. And then after that, you wanted to. I'm a Texas guy, and I've only coached out of the state of Texas for 1 year, and that was in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so I'm not stupid. I needed some South Florida, so I was able to keep Chris Perkins here, who's been on this staff actually since the Coach Kiffin days, who's a Miami guy, who's got a ton of ties down here. But ultimately, what I did whenever I hired this staff is I did feel like we needed to make a lot of change here. The program hasn't been where it deserves to be since 2019, if we're being just honest about it. And this, you talk about 2017, 2019 conference champions to not hardly any wins over the last 5 seasons. And so I felt like we needed a clean house. We needed a fresh start here for everybody. And so I did that. But ultimately what I did is you have to have the human being before the coach. We talked about it earlier. You've got to have guys that love kids, love the game, aren't in it for just the salary, love the grind, love everything that comes a part of it, NIL, transfer portal, recruiting, texting recruits. I mean, you got to love every part of it. And just good people, like guys that I want to go hang out with outside of football and hang out. Like that's what you look for. And again, people that are genuine and they're in it for the right reasons. And, you mentioned it earlier. You've been around this profession for a long time. You know how every coach is a little bit different. But I went after human being first and then coaches second. And clearly within my mind, some of those people are people that I have known, that I've worked with, or that I've coached in the past. I trust, that understand how I operate. And then also too, you lean on your agency to a certain extent of giving you some names and finding some people with Florida ties that know the area that can help me. Because again, I've never been here before, and I want to recruit the state of Florida heavily, and I want to try to keep these South Florida kids home, unless they're going to Miami, right? But that's kind of the goal. And so you put together a staff like that, but ultimately it starts with just genuine, good human beings first and foremost, and then you find out, you get good coaches that have been around the block and have done some good stuff. And I also wanted to bring some more energy here. So I do have a pretty young staff overall. Just wanting to get some juice going, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, you talked about those first 30 days were chaos because you're first and foremost trying to recruit your team to not leave. Even though you've really never watched them hardly play much, but you don't want to lose your whole team, trying to hire a staff. You're trying to figure out what's our NIL situation here at FAU. There's so much that goes into it. And you're also recruiting, you're bringing in transfer portal guys to try to replenish the roster from the guys you did lose. You're trying to grab some of your guys that got in the transfer portal in November to get them to stay. Yeah. It's a lot, but building the staff is one of my favorite parts that I've been able to do so far as a head coach, because you get to, the way I look at it is I get to take care of them and their families. And again, I'm a big family guy. That's my number one. When you come into our building and say, "Hey, what's up with Coach?" You say he's a family guy. And so I take a lot of pride in Harrison Hanna talked about him a second ago. He just had a baby girl 3 weeks ago. Like I love that. I get to help take care of his baby girl and his son. My old line coach just had his baby boy 3 weeks ago. I get to help take care of him too. And so like, I love that aspect of it. And I love taking care of people. That's kind of like a love language type thing for me. I just love taking care of people. And, so being able to bring people that are like-minded, that want to speak the same language as me, that believe in the same things I believe in, on how you're going to go win, how are we going to develop these young men, how are we going to operate this football program on a daily basis. That's what it was all about for me, bringing in the right people with the right heart, with the right attitude, with the right mindset, and then finding great coaches that kind of, go along with that.
Amen, Coach. Well, we're like I said, extremely excited about watching FAU and you do work with your staff and those wonderful young men. So we appreciate everything you're doing for the profession. Before I let you go, just real quick, you were part of the 2023 AFCA 35-35 class, and man, just the amount of guys that have kind of come through and have elevated themselves to be head coaches. We couldn't be more proud about that. But just talk a little bit about your experience and why you would encourage other young coaches to apply if they're within range.
Yeah, I mean, what an unbelievable experience that was for me in 2023, man. It was awesome. You got to understand the game of college football is changing so much, and us young guys, if you will, the guys under 35 years old, and I'm not saying you can't be under 30 or over 35, but we're the future to a certain extent of where this game goes. And I think being able to be able to go to the 35 under 35 there at the AFCA is huge for any coach that is truly passionate and loves this, because you're going to get an opportunity to meet other young coaches that are going to help continue to grow this profession. You're going to get mentored by people that have been there before, that are maybe in the head coaching seat now. And then you just get a lot of knowledge that you probably may not know before. We had agents come speak to us about, why it's important to have an agent. What do you look for when you have an agent? How do contracts work? It's a great way to be mentored. And again, it's a way to grow as a young coach. And again, if there's no ego from me for sure. And it's a great way to go learn, because you can't ever stop growing. And when you go to a place like that, with the conference that we had there, you learn so much, you meet so many people, and all you're doing is you're growing. And again, to me, one of the most important parts of it is us young coaches, we're the future of the game of college football. And if you have an opportunity to be a part of 35-35 there at AFCA, I mean, you need to jump at that opportunity and take it and run with it and be a part of it. Absolutely.
Absolutely, Coach. Wow, we appreciate that that message, and we appreciate you. Okay. Best of luck to you this season. We'll be cheering you on and hopefully get the opportunity to see you there in Charlotte in 26. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Go out.
All right.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcast, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.